Hello and welcome to Anxious at Bedtime.
Thank you for joining us. We are your co-hosts. My name is Monica,
I'm Cash.
I'm Nova.
and today is a Nova episode.
Yeah, it is. This episode, we will be talking about Banshees.
Oof.
Not the ATV off Halo.
Yeah, no, the real deal. To those that don't know what they are, they're a female fairy spirit in Irish folklore that warn about the death of a family member or someone close to you by letting out a very frightening screaming slash wailing cry. Me too, though. I'll randomly just scream. Maybe I'm a banshee.
That's fair, yeah. You might be.
But do you do it in a Celtic accent?
Probably.
Maybe you're like in training. You just don't know it.
Yeah, it was my past life.
Mm.
I was finally released. They were like, "You can be a human now."
Yeah.
Now I'm just.
You've done good.
That just sounded like a poor imitation of Shakira.
Physical descriptions vary, but they most commonly have long red or white silver hair, wearing a white or green dress most of the time, and sometimes with a dark cloak. The age and height also varies. Sometimes they're seen as young, beautiful women, or other times as an old, not so pretty woman, more of a scary appearance.
Like the old hag.
Yeah, I don't want to call them that because I'm scared.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, calling them names. They come visit all angry.
No, I'm not calling them names. I'm just referring to the
The
sleep
old hag.
paralysis episode.
I know.
Most of them are described as very short, between 1 to 4 feet tall, which kind of emphasizes the fairy part of them.
Yeah.
But there have been some accounts of her being unnaturally tall. And then the more spooky ones are described to have like missing or rotting teeth or like super long claw-like fingernails. Just some real spooky shit. Like the Queen in Snow White
Oh,
after she transforms herself. That's what I imagine.
yeah. That makes sense.
And their eyes are usually extremely red in color from crying so much. Me
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Even though they mean no harm and don't really do anything bad, they still sound so scary to experience to me though.
Yeah.
I sure as heck wouldn't want to run into one.
Mm-mm. Like I said, there's a lot of things I'd be okay running into or seeing from a distance, but that doesn't sound like one of them.
Well, yeah, they signify a loved one or family members dying.
Oh, that's fair. I
So I
forgot
mean,
about
yeah,
that
there's
part.
there's lots of reasons you probably don't want to, hang out with the Banshees.
Yeah.
I forgot about that part.
You guys are like, oh, my ears, and I'm like, oh shit, my family.
Yeah, no, same. I'm also a heavy worrier and overthinker, so I'd be up all night, like worried about who she was warning about. Like,
Yeah,
I'd be calling everyone.
me too.
If you guys heard a banshee, would you try preventing it if you were able to, or would you just let the inevitable happen?
See, I would want to try to prevent it, but it always makes me think about, I think it was a movie or
Final Destination. Like if you skip your turn, like are you still gonna go?
no, well,
It
that too.
follows.
The butterfly effect.
No, I think it was an episode of Charmed, maybe something. I don't know, but
Oh goddamn.
it was. Oh, I know what it is. It was That's So Raven, where
Uh,
every
Oh
time,
god.
listen, every time she would get a premonition, she would try to prevent it, and her trying to prevent the premonition from happening is what caused the premonition to happen. And that's what I'd be scared of.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's such a hard decision for me because, like, plus by the time you figure out who it is or was, like, it already might be said and done
Mm-hmm.
by the time you figure it out.
Exactly. It's definitely a hard decision.
Real. Another creepy thing worth noting, real quick, is very, very, very rarely a banshee warns you about your own death. But again, that's like very, very rare.
Hmm.
If ever, honestly.
Well, I wonder if it's very rare because it's like if s- I Do you know how the people die when it was about them?
I don't. I couldn't find too much because like normally what it is like for most cases, if it's your turn, like you supposedly can't hear the banshee, but everyone else around you can.
Oh,
So like yeah, so like that's when you start like kind of worrying is when you can't hear it, but they can.
Well, that's not fair to me.
Right?
I can't hear shit anyways.
no, but I was thinking maybe you could like volunteer yourself to spare your loved ones.
Huh.
Another thing too is it's believed that the banshees only show up for certain families, specifically the descendants of pure Milesian stock of Ireland, and the original belief, which associates the folklore with a number of ancient Irish families.
Hmm.
So, according to that tradition, they wouldn't visit people of Saxon or Norman descent or who came to Ireland later. Some surnames associated with the Banshees have the O or the Mick/Mac prefix,
So then I wonder if it's like a curse.
right? I'm not sure.
The curse of the Banshees.
Very creepy. There are some exceptions to the lore as well, such as a person that has been quote unquote gifted with music and song. It's also believed that some families have their own banshee, and there's one named Ava, who's the ruler of 25 other banshees that's always with her. Imagine hearing 26 going off at the same time. That would be so fucking terrifying.
No, thank you.
Now let's get into some more background. The word banshee means fairy woman. Even though there's that translation, some people believe they're ghosts. Stories have been passed down generation to generation for centuries in Ireland. Some believe the banshee is the ghost of a young woman who was brutally killed, that her death was so horrible that now she watches over the family, warning them of impending death.
Hmm.
Historians have traced the first stories back to the 8th century, where there was a tradition where women sang a sorrowful song to lament someone's death. These women were called keeners, and they sometimes would accept alcohol as payment, but because of that, they were considered sinners and punished by being doomed to become banshees.
Oh, good gravy.
Right? That's so mean.
Yeah.
Some were professionals, and the best ones would be in pretty high demand. It's also said that if several show up at the same time, someone great or holy was about to pass. Some also say their wailing can be so piercing it can shatter glass. That'd be freaky.
I would.
It'd be pretty freaky. Yeah.
Now let's get into the good stuff. Some personal accounts of banshees that I found. Some of these were posted anonymous with no name to credit or from Reddit users. Let's get into this first one. I remember being told as a young child of an uncle who was walking home on a cold and blustery night. He was probably 3 sheets to the wind after partaking a snifter to keep the cold out. On arriving home, he told my grandmother that he had tried to comfort an old woman he had met along the way. Describing her, he said the old woman was dressed in black with a veil over her face, which that's another way people have described seeing her too, real quick, is
Hmm.
just like dressed all in black with like a black veil covering her face,
Weird.
right? Given that one chick from Insidious.
Yeah.
But she was crying and wailing outside the house. Every time he went over to her, she moved away, but all the while kept pointing at the house. My grandmother, with all her knowledge of the old Irish mythology and legends, knew straight away what this old lady represented and hurried my uncle to bed, reassuring him that she herself would have a look for the old woman. Needless to say, she didn't dare do such a thing. I don't blame her.
Mm-hmm.
Then, sure enough, only 3 days after this strange encounter, my grandmother's brother died peacefully in his sleep. As children, we used to plague my uncle to recount the story of the night he tried to invite the bandy in for tea. I like that one because it's like mellow and sweet.
Yeah. Not super terrifying.
Right.
Yeah. This next one is from a Redditor that goes by the username ScrollSour. When I was a child of 12, I went walking with my father on a frosty winter's night about 8 p.m. This was back in the 80s when there was less traffic in rural Ireland. It was one of those nights where there is no noise. When we turned to head home, a terrible wailing started. I was terrified. My father said it was a fox, but I could tell that he was disturbed by it too. We had to walk 2 miles home, and the noise seemed to follow us, not getting louder or fading either. When my father put the key in the door, the wailing stopped. My mother said that we were white as ghosts. 4 days later, my older brother was killed in an accident in Germany. We never spoke about it until 10 years later. I had moved to Dublin for work, and my father came to stay for a few days. He wasn't a drinker, but we went for a few pints. He got upset and was talking about my brother. He told me that it was definitely the banshee we had heard, and told me he had heard it 4 days before his father passed away. He said that I would probably hear it again when his time comes. He is still alive, but in a nursing home, and I am dreading to hear that noise again. That's so sad and heavy.
That one is.
It really is sad.
Yeah.
Why do I always come up with the fucking heavy, sad shit?
I don't know.
Freaking like writing it and stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be good. And then I read it out loud and I'm just like, oh, my heart. Our third story is from another Reddit user, Yugen Hassan. When I was 18, myself and two friends were staying up late, listening to music and chatting. All of a sudden, a screeching started up from the church behind my house. I've heard foxes, I've heard cats. This was similar for sure, but far more chilling and penetrating. We were all deeply unsettled. The joyous chats could not be resumed, and we decided to call the night early. We joked half-heartedly that maybe that was a banshee, and how we hoped nothing bad would happen. 2 days later, our friend was murdered. The experience of that night was, of course, overshadowed by the grief of the loss of our friend and the horror of senseless violence. But I drifted back to it. I would not say I believe in banshees. I understand how the human brain is so good at making stories and patterns out of chaos. But that was certainly quite the experience. If anything would make me believe in that kind of stuff, it would definitely be this,
Oh my gosh.
right? And then there was another one. I don't remember what the book was called, but it was there was this book about like just paranormal encounters from like real people all over the world. And this guy shared his. So when he was living at home with his mom, in the middle of the night, he started hearing this like wailing sound,
Mm-hmm.
and he immediately knew that it was a banshee. And he said that he had heard it previously before, but he's never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so this particular night, he was feeling determined to go see it. I don't know why. I would not want to, personally,
Yeah.
but he said that he was like so scared and petrified like when he first heard it, but there was just that very strong urge in him to go see it. And then so he started for the back door and he opened it up and he couldn't move. Like he just could not move a muscle. And he didn't know if it was just the sound of the banshee that was just like petrifying him in place, basically, or if something was protecting him. But either way, that's so fucking scary,
Or maybe it didn't want him to see it.
Plain old peekaboo.
right? That's something I think too. But then moments after, his mom came down and she was just like, "What are you doing? Like, go in, like, go get back in bed." And he was like able to move again, like just to go into the house. And his body and his clothes were just completely soaked head to toe from sweat,
Holy cow.
right? I don't remember who it was that died after he heard it, but someone did. But it's just, that's so scary.
Yeah, it is. No, but that is scary, especially since once he decided that he was going back into the house, he was able to move again.
Right?
Because you'd think if it was like fight, flight, or freeze, it would last a little bit longer and it wouldn't be such a like, I'm going back in the house and oh, I can move now.
That's fair.
Back to some more lore on her. She'll sometimes be seen combing her hair. There were some other descriptions I found, but it's kind of crazy, like just the different versions, like so many people have reported. One of them, too, was a fucking headless lady just holding a bowl of blood.
Ew.
Right? So, like, there wasn't like too much on the description about that one. Like, not too many people have seen that version. But it's mostly just the silver or red hair, like long hair, and then like a pretty little dress, and then just red eyes crying. But those ones were like creepy. The fucking headless with the blood bowl and combing the hair though isn't too bad.
Yeah. In order for me to sleep tonight, I'm telling myself it was a bowl of tomato sauce.
Bowl of jelly. But so back to the comb part. If you ever find a comb at a crossroads, or honestly anywhere for that matter, just a random comb, leave it be. Like, just do not touch it, do not take it, because it could be a banshee's.
You don't have to worry about me. I don't like other people's hair products. I don't like other people's hair. I'm not touching that shit.
Right, same.
No, but does that count for random combs in your own home?
That's my comb.
Ooh,
Calm
that's
down.
a good
Yeah, but
question.
sometimes I'll find ones that I know like came with my blow dryer when I bought it or like from a friggin' salon. Sometimes they give out little goodie bags, you know? We've gotten a few of those
Yeah.
that I'll forget about and then like a few years later I'll find it.
It's different. It's not just laying in the middle of the
Okay.
road. That's
I
something.
just had to ask.
That is a good question, though. If you did not have any idea about the origin, I would definitely say do not touch it.
Okay.
But while they usually mean no harm, it could be a complete different story if you steal her shit.
Yeah, I can imagine.
She's just like, I don't have much in this afterlife. My comb was my only thing, and you took it. I'd be mad too.
Right. What's the one thing people talk about me? My hair. Leave my hair stuff alone.
For real. You think it's easy maintaining these locks?
Mhm.
A lot of people also say that the cry of a banshee could get confused with foxes, owls, or even cats. I'm sure some people have confused the two, but at the same time, for the people that did hear it and did lose someone shortly after, how can you dispute that? Like, there are no coincidences.
Yeah, that's fair. And it sounds like most people that heard it for some reason immediately knew like that's what this is.
Hmm. That's something too that, like, when I was reading some stories, some people would say that, like, that one person, their story, have they said that they've heard foxes and they've heard cats and they just knew it was neither of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's such a I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I don't know. And like reading some people's comments and stuff, they were like, "Oh, it was just a cat or it was just a fox." And I was like, I'm pretty sure people would know the difference, especially by now since we have the fucking internet. You could just look up sounds from any animal. And like another thing too is that like a lot of people were saying that you can not only hear the difference, but you can even feel the difference. Like when you hear the wailing of a banshee, it's just this heavy, hits your soul kind of sound.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can just like feel the emotion in it. And like it's so sad. But I don't think you'd feel that just hearing a fox.
Probably not.
But I think it's so cool, just like the idea of banshees. Whether they follow the family around generation for generation, just watching and waiting. Like, I think it's kind of sweet, just letting people know days before tragedy strikes to kind of just prepare for what's going to happen, or like to say goodbyes, or even just spend some last good quality time with them. I don't know. It's just like a bittersweet thing, you know?
See, but just like with Mothman, it's always going to leave that question for me. How can you be sure that it's an omen and not the cause?
That's valid.
Very fair. I had that question too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I personally think that maybe they are just like warning and not necessarily the cause. But I don't know, like you just never know at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully all they do is just mean well. And that's all they are is just warnings. Because if not, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. I hope they're just warnings, but it is also kind of weird to give your warning in such a frightening manner.
For real. But yeah, that's basically all I like fully wrote down on it. But we could still talk more about like questions and theories and stuff.
I don't know if I have any questions. I do think it's interesting that she has been seen in a green dress, though. You don't hear that very often.
Right? I know. And like in a lot of the picture depictions, it's more of like a very light lime green kind of dress.
Hmm.
Or not really lime, but like just a very, very light color.
Like Tinkerbell?
And she's a fairy.
No, like lighter. She is a fairy. Oh my God.
But it's also really sad that she's often seen with super red eyes from crying. That hurts my heart.
She's never allowed to talk unless she's killing people by screaming.
Right,
Oh, that's
ditto.
fair. So the only way she can emote is through tears. Well, thank you, Nova, for that episode. Thank you for listening. You can follow our socials. We have a TikTok and an Instagram, both anxious at bedtime.
Thank you for tuning in.
If you or somebody you know has had an experience with the paranormal that you would like to have read on the pod, please email it to anxiousatbedtimepodcast@gmail.com.
If you've ever been screamed at by a banshee, holler at your boy. Let us know.
If you've ever seen a ghost, if you ever pet Bigfoot,
If you pet Bigfoot, I need fucking pictures or videos.
If you've ever been abducted,
have you ever been abducted? Yes. That's the stories I'm waiting to hear. The world could be a scary place with things like screaming banshees in it, but we're probably fine.
We're probably fine.
we're probably fine.